Okay, so here we are in chapter 2, which is really starting to get into the true functionality of Microsoft Excel. And basically, in this chapter, you're going to be using an example of a personal budget, which happens to be the first content area that we're going to be working in for managerial accounting. We're going to be making a corporate budget, so that's why I like this book so much. This is where you're aiming. This is what we're going to get to at the end, this personal cash budget right here. You'll notice that this is a multi-page workbook, similarly to how we will be doing budgets for a corporation and managerial finance, or I'm sorry, managerial accounting. So, so that's where we're aiming. So I wanted to demonstrate how you go about downloading a file, a data file, in case you haven't done that before. So in the ebook, there's a link to the data file, and here it is. And if you click over here on that link, it will actually open up an Excel sheet. And make that a little bigger so that we can see it. It's already over 100%. I'll make it larger still. You'll notice that this is a multi-page spreadsheet, budget summary on the front. And what we want to do is if you click on the tab for the budget detail, this is where we're starting. So first of all, I want to note that this is already pre-formatted. Already looks pretty cool. And it doesn't include our mortgage and car payments because basically, if you think about your life budget, right, these are all the things that you spend money on every month. But we're going to calculate our car payment and our mortgage payments separately using some of the functions, some of the finance functions in Excel. So the first thing that we want to do here is that we're going to calculate our monthly spend values, right? So that all you need to do to figure out your monthly spend is take your annual spend and divide it by 12, right? So the way that we do this is we indicate that it's a formula by typing the equal sign, and then we refer to our annual spend over here, and then use the backslash to indicate divide by. And since our number of months in a year is never going to change, we can just go ahead and divide that by 12. That's how much we spend per month on utilities. And then all you need to do to copy that formula down, just like before, is you could either say copy and paste, like that, or you could say copy and paste in several cells, like that, or you could use my favorite, autofill, and just drag it down like that. As before, our cell references, if we double click on the cell, we see that we're referring to this adjacent cell in the top line, and if we click on lower lines, Excel knows enough to move the cell references to make sense. Right. So that's how we figure out our monthly spend or expenditures. And then the next thing that they have you do is, okay, that's nice if you just got one number divided by the other, but how do we calculate a percent? I'm sorry, we want to have a percent change. Percent change between last year and this year. So our percent change means the difference between last year and this year, and then we need to calculate the percent by saying what's the difference, and then we divide that by the original value, right? So our percent change, I'll write this out, percent change, the difference between last year And this year's expenditures divided by last year's. That gives us our percent change. So how do we actually write that formula? Well, if we just say the difference between this year and last year, so this year minus last year divided by last year. All right, what's going to be wrong with that? Let's take a look. Well, first of all, it's 29,900%, which isn't right. You know, it's going to be 0, right? We can see that it's 0% difference. The reason that it's not calculating right is because we need to pay attention to the order of operations. Remember that unless you indicate what order of operations to operate in, Excel is going to use PEMDAS. Right? This is the order of operations. Parentheses. Exponents. Multiply. Divide. Add. And subtract. Right? So in this case, this formula that we have here, what Excel has done is do dividing before subtracting. So it divides E3 by E3, 3,000 by 3,000, that's 1. And then it subtracts 1 from D3, which is 3,000, it gives us 29.99, right? So what we have to do is short circuit that by entering a parenthesis in the numerator. Now it'll give us 0, right? And we can see that. And eyeballing calculations is very, very important. Okay, if you just do things blindly and don't pay attention to whether your numbers make sense, you're going to get fired from your job. And you're going to get bad grades in my class. All right, so we've got our calculation correct, and now we can just calculate our percent change. And so sure enough, our calculations come out the same as they did here. So we have increased our expenditures on gasoline by 25% over last year, but we decreased our expenditures on food by 11%, and we decreased our vacation expenditures also by 25%. Relative to last year. So we can eyeball these numbers, we can see that these percentages make sense. So, let's see, the next thing that they want you to do is to, they basically demonstrate how to do what's called formula auditing. So if you go to the Formulas tab up here, the first thing you can do is say show all formulas, right, in the whole spreadsheet. So here it is, right? It takes away any formatting here, and it just shows all the formulas in the whole spreadsheet. So you can just sort of eyeball and make sure that the formulas make sense, which of course they do. So that's the first thing that they show you how to do. And then you can also, in a formula that you are interested in, right, you can trace what are the precedents or how the numbers relate to the formula. So we can see that, you know, for that formula here in cell F3, these are the precedent cells that are going into it. And likewise, right, there it is again. Okay, you can also use the trace dependence function to see where this number shows up in formulas. Now this is a very trivial example, but imagine a multi-page spreadsheet with detailed budget informations and a business plan to take to the bank to try to start up a new business. These doing these kinds of auditing become very very helpful for trying to figure out where problems arise. So that is the first section in the chapter 2.